Sholawat dan salam semoga senantiasa tercurah pada Nabi kita, Nabi Muhammad SAW, seluruh keluarga, seluruh sahabatnya, dan seluruh pengikutnya. Syukur Alhamdulillah setelah tadi mengikuti materi yang disampaikan oleh Dr. Farisan Isi yang dipandu oleh Pak An Sofyan. Kita sempat istirahat beberapa waktu untuk sholat dan makan. Hari saat ini tepat pukul 13 waktu Indonesia Barat. Kita akan memulai kembali kuliah kita. Jika tadi ada beberapa hal yang sudah disampaikan oleh Dr. Farisan Isi, termasuk ada, maaf, canning, jadi bagaimana proses pengalengan dan lain-lain. Nah, kita akan melihat, kita akan mengikuti apa materi yang nanti akan disampaikan. Nanti insya Allah pertanyaan akan dapat disampaikan di akhir, nanti akan ada sesi tanya jawab. Silahkan adik-adik mahasiswa mencatat dulu atau bisa juga langsung menuliskan di chat pertanyaan-pertanyaannya, atau nanti bisa juga langsung menyalakan mic. Tapi tolong kalau yang ingin bertanya secara langsung, silahkan ditunda sampai sesi tanya jawab. Dr. Isi sudah siap?
Ya, sudah siap.
Oke. Baik, ini kali pertama barangkali saya bertemu dengan Dr. Farisan Isi. Let me introduce myself. Nama
Yes,
saya
please.
Pramudia Kurnia. Nama saya Pramudia Kurnia. Saya juga staf di Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta. Saat ini Bu Fitriana tidak bisa karena ada kegiatan atau acara yang lain, dan Pak Aan juga tadi sudah memandu sehingga saya yang bertugas pada kesempatan siang hari ini. Oke, nanti adik-adik mahasiswa silahkan diperhatikan baik-baik. Pertanyaan dapat disampaikan in English, in Indonesia, silahkan mau pakai bahasa Inggris atau bahasa Indonesia. Saya kira tidak ada masalah dengan kedua bahasa tersebut. Sampaikan dengan bahasa yang baik, bahasa yang sopan, sebutkan terlebih dahulu namanya, kemudian baru disampaikan pertanyaannya atau questionnya. Baik, saya persilahkan Ibu Dr. Farisan Isi. The time and the screen is yours now.
Terima kasih, Pak. Bisa dengar jelas nggak?
Bisa, sangat jelas.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, for the first session today, we stop at quiz. So I know you want to know the result. I show the result of the quiz first, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, this one is top 5. We have 163 participants, but only 144 finished the answer. I'm not sure how many students in the class. Is it 144 in total?
In total, it's about 160 something.
Okay, it means some of you didn't take the test, the quiz. It's okay. I just want to announce the top 5, and this top 5, I will give you a present. At first, I promised to give only 3, but because you have like 144 participants, I think it's not fair just to give for top 3. So I decide to give the present to top 5. The first winner is Alira Ayu. Please clap your hands. Okay, the second one, Anggreni. The third one, Ika Putri. The fourth one, Anissa Nurfa Latifa. And the fifth one, Edilia Triana. Okay. regarding the price, I will send to Bu Fitriana. Okay. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay. For this lecture, our third lecture, we will talk about drying process and as well as chemical preservative. Okay, we already touched basically four topics today and another two this afternoon, drying and chemical preservative. Okay, preservation of food by drying. Basically, drying, or we call dehydration, is the removal of water by evaporation from a solid or liquid food with the purpose of obtaining a solid product sufficiently low in water content. Okay, it means drying is a dehydration process. Dehydration will remove water from the food system. If rehydration, we reapply the water into the food system. In this case, we want to remove the water, okay, to obtain low water content. In the first lecture, I already touched about water activity. We measure the water activity to determine the free water that available in the food system, because the water activity is the water that will be used by the microorganism that will involve in enzyme activity and as well as chemical reaction. Then because we have a lot of water if we have a lot of water in our food system, it shortens the shelf life of the product. So in this case, we want to remove the water so that we can have low water activity, so that the water cannot be used by the by the enzyme as well as for chemical reaction. As you can see in the slide, there is some example of dried vegetables and dried fruits that you commonly see in the market. Dehydration process involves the simultaneous application of heat and removal of moisture from food. That's why we have to have the heat supply to remove the water content in our food. The main purpose of drying is to extend the shelf life of product by reducing in water activity, as I mentioned earlier. We want to remove as much as possible the water activity, the free water, not the bound water, but the free water. Free water, the water that available for microbe or chemical reaction or can involve in enzyme activity. But bound water, for example, water that bound to carbohydrate, protein, that kind of water did not involve in food spoilage. Dehydration accomplishes preservation in two major ways. The first one, by reducing water content, the opportunity for microbial deterioration is eliminated and the rate of other deterioration reaction are reduced significantly because the water is low in the food system. And secondly, increase the concentration of salt, sugar, and acid, thus creating a chemical environment unfavorable for the growth of many microorganisms. As water evaporates from the food system, the salt, sugar, or acid become concentrated. The salt bind to water, we call bound water. This kind of water cannot use for growth of microorganism. Okay, now we look at the principle of drying. The mechanism of water removal by drying involves two simultaneous processes, dua proses serentak. The first one, transfer of heat from the removing water from the food, okay, and then the secondly, transport of water vapor from away from the food. Okay, if you can imagine you sidai baju at di jemuran. Okay, baju yang basah after a few hours dia akan kering. Why? Because the moisture, the water in the pakaian absorb heat from the sun, and when the water have enough energy, they can escape from the surface of the pakaian. It is the same process happen in drying of fruit in oven. Okay, heat transfer move into the food product, and the water vapor in mass transfer go out from the food system. Okay, anak-anak mahasiswa, can you name me dried foods that commonly produced in Indonesia? To be honest, I never been to Indonesia. Maybe you can name me a few products that specially dried in Indonesia, that's only available in Indonesia maybe. Can you
Ayo,
share with me?
silakan. Produk makanan yang biasa dikeringkan atau
Dikeringkan, yang special di
ya,
Indonesia. Saya nggak pernah
apa?
ke Indonesia, Pak. Nggak tahu, mungkin ada yang special, mau tahu juga.
We have dried apple, we have dried snake fruit,
Snack fruit.
ya. Apalagi dek? Ini sale. Sale is made from banana, dried banana.
Sale, dried
Ya,
banana,
sale. Ya,
sun-dried.
ya.
Oh, I know,
Terus,
pisang salai.
ya,
Is it salai? Oh,
ya,
in
ya.
Malaysia we call pisang salai. Oh,
Yeah,
this one is
in
salai.
Indonesia we
Okay.
call it sale. And
Salai,
then,
okay, okay.
apalagi dek? Yang kering-kering, buah atau?
Kelas petang-petang biasanya mengantuk. That's why I want to ask you so that you will have two-way communication.
Buah anggur, Ibu. Itu nanti
Buah
jadi
anggur dikeringkan?
ya, ntar jadi kismis.
Ya, benar. Indonesia ada ladang anggur sendiri?
Ya, ada.
Ada, oh.
Hmm.
But it's quite hard to find anggur in Malaysia. Only a few places
Ya, ya.
we can grow anggur.
Ah,
Ada buah
apalagi
lain?
dek?
Ada sayur lain?
Sayur.
Ikan asin.
Ikan asin.
Ikan asin, ya.
Ikan asin. Oh, kalau di Malaysia kita panggil ikan kering.
Oh, ikan kering ya.
Desalted and then dried. Okay, ikan
Ya.
asin. Yes, betul. Okay, thank you for the reply. Okay, we look at the type of drying. The first one, sun drying, is the most common one. Okay, because Malaysia, Indonesia, we got plenty of sunlight. So this one is most convenient for us. Sun drying. Sun drying is the evaporation of water from product by sun or solar heat assisted by movement of surrounding air. Okay. However, it's a slow process. If you want to dry pisang, for example, probably it takes a few days. Okay. And then we might face a few problems. For example, it's not easy to control the pest, for example, lalat, okay, bee. Microorganism and pests can attack because it's an open concept. You put on the tray and you just let it dry a few days. And probably Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, we have plenty of rain as well. Sometimes our product is almost dry, but suddenly it's raining. So we have to dry it again. Okay, that's a common problem when you use the sun drying. However, this technique is quite inexpensive. It's the most inexpensive method or technique to produce dried products. For example, grains, fruit, spices. As you can see in the image, we have sun-dried tomatoes. They cut the tomato into half and dry under the sun. And the second one, sun-dried fish. Okay, we dry the fish under the sunlight. Okay, the second type of drying is the modern one. Hot air drying, the most commonly employed commercial technique for drying vegetable and fruits. This is the most common technique that used in the factory. More convenient and easy to control because we can set the temperature and as well as the humidity. We can set the temperature that we want. And however, because sometimes you use the high temperature, it might cause nutrient loss. Okay, because we want to try to remove as much as possible the moisture content. As compared to sun drying, this technique is more expensive, but is less expensive as compared to other techniques. The third types of drying, vacuum drying, can be used for delicate materials and save up significant energy quantity due to lower drying temperature. Okay. Vacuum drying is a process in which material are dried in reduced pressure environment. As you can see here in the chamber, we reduce the pressure, which lower the heat needed for rapid drying. For example, if you want to dry, to remove water, you use in oven like 100 degrees C. But if you use vacuum drying, you can just set at 70 degrees to remove the moisture. It takes a lower temperature to remove the moisture. Commonly used for drying thick hard food materials. You can use the same product as the previous drying, but you can use at lower temperature to remove the moisture content in the product. Usually we use to dry the thick and hard product. The next one, drum drying or film drying. A drum dryer is a rotating cylinder that uses steam or hot air to heat feedstock and reduce the moisture content during a manufacturing process. As you can see here on the top, the circle one, the drum is rotate. Okay, and on the top they have feed holder where the feed will come out, and then the cylinder will be rotate, and the cylinder also heated by hot air, so that once they rotate, the wet film will be dry. And at the end, they have scraper to cut it, to cut the dry film. You can see in the photo below, the product being scrapped from the roller. The length of time the feedstock remain on the drum depends on the original moisture content and the desired ending moisture contents. If you want to have drier product, maybe you can slower the rotating drum so that it rotates slowly and it takes longer time for the food to dry and you get the drier product. It creates dry powder and flake from a liquid feedstock. It used to process powdered milk, starch, breakfast cereals, baby food, instant mashed potato, and instant porridge. Okay, type of drying. The next one is rotary drying. These dryers are typically arranged as horizontal cylinders that rotate along their main axis. Okay. The cylinder, if you can see on the image on the top, from the side view, you can see the cylinder is rotating. You put the white foot at one end and you collect at the other end. Okay, when they moving, also the cylinder is rotating. That's what we call rotary drying. When product enter one end and move forward, and we can collect by at the end of the cylinder. As the cylinder rotates, air force into the cylinder, blow across the product as it tumbler. It's moving, it's rotate to provide effective contact between air and product. If you can imagine, if you rotate the cylinder, so to prevent the product from attached to each other. So when it rotates, the product tends to move and it increases the contact between the product and the air. So we increase the rate of drying. The common application are for dehydrating waste materials such as citrus peel, vegetable trimming, and animal feedstuff. Spray drying. A method of producing a dry powder from a liquid or slurry by rapid drying with a hot gas. This spray drying I did for my PhD. So I focused my study during my PhD in spray drying. I study the morphology, the shape, the texture of the spray dried powder. Okay, this process, because it takes a few seconds for the droplet to dry, it will cause low nutrient loss. More expensive than drum or air dryer because this equipment is quite expensive. Okay, so the process is quite expensive as well. But it's good control. We can control the feed rate, the feed, the temperature, the air pressure inside the chamber. But the limitation for this one, we can only use for liquid sample. For example, milk. You want to convert milk to milk powder, you can use spray dryer. The nutrient loss will be lower and it's efficient to reduce the moisture content in the powder particle. Other than that, you can also use this one, spray dryer, to dry coffee creamer, fruit juice, instant coffee, and tea. That's why when you buy the sachet one, 3-in-1 coffee or 3-in-1 tea, when you put in a glass, it's totally dissolved. Okay, it's not like you put the coffee beans, the ground coffee bean, the waste is still there. But this one, usually, before we use the spray dryer, we filter first. We get the pure one, the pure coffee, and then we spray it. Okay, sometimes we also add other additive, for example, maltodextrin, gamma arabic, to help in binding. Okay, this is how the spray dryer function. The first one, the liquid is dispersed, or we call atomized, as a small droplet or a fine droplet, and it's spread from here, the nozzle, into small droplet, and it will drop into very hot chamber. The temperature here is quite hot. Usually we use 120 and above. We can use up to 180, 190 degrees C. But it takes only a few seconds for the droplet to contact with the air inside the chamber. and air and water will be removed from the droplet, and the dry powder will be collected by in cyclone. Okay. Okay, the next one, freeze drying. Freeze drying is a process in which water in the form of ice under low pressure is removed from a material by sublimation. Okay, that's why during freezing, it's a combination between freezing and drying. The first one, before you want to apply freeze drying, you have to frozen the food first. You put in the freezer to frozen the food, and then you put in the freeze dryer as shown in the image here. Because it used low temperature, it remains nutritional content, nutritional value better than other drying methods, because the rest of drying method we use heat, we apply heat to remove the moisture in our food system. The food texture is better maintained under this condition. Okay, if you compare the texture for freeze-dried product is crunchier as compared to the conventional method. Oven drying, sun drying, usually texture is flat, but this one is crispier and maintain the color and texture and shape of the product. But it's a quite slow process. Average usually it might take more than 24 hours to obtain the dried product, and the cost is quite expensive. Commonly used for coffee, fruits, vegetables, herbs, food flavoring, fish, seafood, egg, and dairy. For herbs, the manufacturer prefer the techniques as it can preserve the smell, the aroma, and the taste of the food. This is schematic illustration of freeze drying process. Okay, this is the food, the frozen layer, because you have to freeze the product first before you put in the freeze dryer. So you have the frozen food, and the top one will dry first. Okay, this is a drying chamber. Okay, changes in food during drying. The first one, shrinkage. Okay, shrinkage due to water migration. Water will evaporate to surrounding or environment, so that they leave the product with shrinkage texture. As you can see here, if you can imagine, this one is fresh apple cube. And when it partially dry, most part of the moisture migrate to the environment, and then when it fully dry, they lost the structure. Okay, shape distorted due to cell shrinkage and migration of water soluble to surface. Okay. Okay. As you can see here, comparison between dehydrated mango and freeze-dried mango. This texture is totally different. As you can see, dehydrated mango shrink after drying, and for freeze drying, they're able to maintain the structure of the mango, and the texture is crunchier as compared to common drying technique. Okay, this one for berries. For dehydrated, you barely see. It's hard for you, susah you nak nampak shape yang asal. Okay, but freeze drying, you can see, you boleh tengok shape. They maintain the shape. Okay, the kekal shape yang asal. That's why now in the market, it's easy for you to see freeze dry and freeze dry product, but they offer you at higher process because the freeze drying process is quite expensive. Okay. Pernah try enggak freeze dry product? Anak-anak mahasiswa?
Belum, dokter.
Pernah try enggak?
Belum pernah, dokter.
Belum pernah? Oh, di Malaysia quite famous freeze dry product, tapi you have to pay quite expensive to get only small amount. But in terms of texture, rangup, enak banget. Okay. If you got a chance, you should try freeze dry. You can feel the different texture, the common drying process versus the freeze dry process. The second things might happen during the drying, we call case hardening. Rapid drying compounds such as sugar form a hard, impermeable case around the food. Okay, let's say if you can imagine, we have slice of pineapple. Pineapple is quite high in sugar, so when you put in really hot temperature, for example in oven, you put in oven at hot temperature, the sugar will dry on the surface of the product. So what happened? Di luarnya kering, ada gula, but inside still moist. And then the moisture inside the pineapple cannot penetrate into surrounding because sugar halang daripada moisture untuk keluar. We call this one is case hardening. This process can slow down dehydration. Common in high sugar product, for example, tropical and temperate foods. In this case, I give you an example for pineapple. And sometimes it takes longer time to dry, to fully dry, because the pineapple coated with sugar. Okay, so the inner is still moist. Kita nggak mau yang moist, sebabnya nanti produk cepat rosak. And the third changes during drying of food, browning. Refer to change in the color of food material to light to dark brown color. This color may be due to a few reasons. The first one, residual enzymatic browning, PPO, polyphenol oxidase. When you cut the food, if you still remember in my first lecture, I show you the image of pineapple. When you cut it, you potong apple. After a few hours, the apple turn to brown due to enzymatic browning. Okay. For Maillard reaction and caramelization, it must involve heat. Okay. For Maillard reaction, it is the reaction between the amino acid of protein and reducing sugar of carbohydrate in presence of heat. Mesti ada heat. Bila ada heat, ada amino acid, ada reducing sugar, it may cause browning. And the other one is caramelization. It is a conversion of sugar only into dark color compound in presence of heat. Okay, bila you panaskan gula, dia akan jadi brown. Macam you buat pudding caramel. So you caramel the sugar. This is how it's happened. In the oven, the temperature is high. You put product high in sugar, for example, pineapple, and then it causes caramelization. The product turn to dark brown. This doesn't happen in freeze dryer because they didn't involve heat. That's why the color for freeze dried product is maintained sama seperti sebelum dry. They have no browning reactions. Chemical changes. A variety of chemical changes occur during which contribute to during drying, which contribute to the final quality in terms of food color, flavor, texture, nutritional value, and storage stability. Browning reaction inducing enzymatic oxidation of PPO, polyphenol oxidase, caramelization of sugar, maillard browning, denaturization of protein, and loss of volatile flavor constituent occur. Okay, that's why in herbs that very sensitive to heat, we prefer to use freeze dryer to preserve, to maintain the aroma. Okay, this is the nutritional content. We compare between dried food and fresh food. As you can see, the calorie, the sugar content is higher as compared to the fresh one. That's why when you eat, for example, you eat grapes as compared you eat raisin. The grapes are sweet, but when you turn to a raisin, it's sweeter because the sugar become concentrated as water being removed from the fruits. Okay, now we look at the factors affecting drying. The first one, surface area. Okay, smaller food piece, more rapid the rate of moisture loss. As you can see here, container A and container B. Container B, the drying more rapid or faster moisture loss due to larger surface area. The exposed area is larger as compared to container A. The second factor is temperature. Increase in temperature will increase the drying rate. Of course, if you can imagine, you dry fruits at low temperature to get certain moisture content, it will take longer if you use low temperature as compared to higher temperature. Air velocity. Air moving, okay, maximize velocity of heated air moving around the food to increase the drying rate. That's why some of the oven they design to have fan so that they have better air movement. Preventing the moisture from creating a saturated atmosphere, which would slow down subsequent moisture removal. Okay, if we have problem with saturated atmosphere, the moisture still on the top, it's hard for the moisture to move from the product. If you use fan, for example, you move away the saturated atmosphere, the drying rate will be higher. It takes shorter time to dry if you use fan rather than static air. Humidity of drying air. The drier the air, the more rapid the rate of drying. If you can imagine in the drying chamber, we can set the relative humidity. The lower you set the relative humidity, it means the drier the air, so that the moisture in the food can escape from the food faster. The drying rate become higher. Relative humidity or %RH of the drying air determines the final moisture content of product. Okay, the other factors that might influence the drying rate atmospheric pressure and vacuum. At normal pressure, water boils at 100 degrees C. However, at lower pressure, the boiling temperature will decrease. Okay, you can boil temperature at lower degree, at lower temperature, and you apply lower pressure. It's important for heat sensitive food. It takes a shorter time for the food to cook, so that you don't expose the food to heat for longer period. It's better to cut the exposure to the heat for the heat sensitive food. Okay, we done for the first topic, and this one will be the last topic of my lecture. Okay, chemical preservation of food. Okay, let's see the introduction first. Chemical preservative are intentional food additive incorporated into food we intentionally add this preservative into food to prevent or retard food spoilage caused by microorganism, enzyme, or chemical reaction. This chemical preservative should be a non-toxic to human or animals. Chemical preservative come under the food additive generally recognized as GRAS. GRES, generally recognized as GRAS by FDA. Chemical preservative can also be termed as antimicrobial. The main purpose of using chemical preservative is to inhibit the growth and activity of foodborne pathogens and spoilage of microorganisms. How do you know the food is spoiled? You can see from the image here, probably the surface of the fruits turn to black, or for milk, you can smell the bad smell when you open the cap of the bottle. As we know, the product is rotten. This is an example of preservative that commonly used in food industry. The first one, this is salsa sauce. Okay, as you can see here, sodium benzoate preservative. Okay, in this food labeling, they mention preservative. Sometimes in the food labeling, they just put sodium benzoate, but no, they don't write the function. So here we clearly see that the preservative here is sodium benzoate. And this one is for carbonated drink. Okay, you can see the ingredients. For ingredients in food industry, we have to label the first one is the major component, major ingredients. We have to put the major one first, and the lesser second, and the least one at the back. So that's why usually the preservative or colorant, red 40 is colorant. Usually we can see at towards the end of the ingredients. If you see the preservative will be list the first one, is something wrong with the formulation, or they just don't know how to label properly label the ingredients. So that's why in this case we can see sodium benzoate for carbonated drink towards the end of the list of ingredients. They also mention here sodium benzoate as preservative. And here is an example of bread. Okay, you can see here calcium propionate to retard spoilage. It means we can use this one to in bread. Okay. What if you go to Europe country, for example, they use their own language and you cannot read the language. How you going to use how you want to know the ingredients? Okay. In my case, when, for example, this one is in Italy, I think it's in Italy, I think. If you want to know this one, I think the handphone, now we have the technology, we can take the photo and automatically transfer, they translate into your language, or you can decide any language that you want. Okay. Last time when I was in Europe, we don't have that kind of option. You know what I'm doing? I have Googled everything. Okay, it's hard for us to find a halal food because there is no halal logo. You have to find every single thing. We have to Google every single thing. And if you're lucky, you can see the vegetarian logo. Okay. I prefer this one rather than the non logo for vegan or vegetarian, because it's easier for you to choose. Okay. For vegan, you can pick the vegan, and for Muslim, you can just check any ingredients that might be an alcohol. Okay, you do not the possible for vegan, they don't use the fat from the animals. Okay. Role of chemical preservative. The first one interferes with cell wall, cell membrane, enzymatic activity, nucleic acid to prevent microorganism growth and activity. Retard, prevent, or control undesirable changes in flavor, color, texture, or consistency of food and nutritive value of food. And control natural spoilage of food. Okay. Classification of chemical preservative. We have two classes. We can divide the chemical preservative into two classes. Class 1, traditional preservative, or we call natural preservative. These include preservative like roots, smoke, sugar, honey, salt, spices, alcohol, vinegar, vegetable oil, spices, and etc., which are commonly used in our kitchen in the past because it's natural. It's no harm to your food. These chemical preservatives are not restricted to use, and there is no imposed limitation on their use. You can use either any of them, and there's no limit. You can use as much as you want. These naturally occurring preservatives are regarded as safe for human health. Okay, for class 2, chemical preservative, artificial. These are synthetic chemical preservatives that are made in the laboratory. For example, nitrate, propionate, parabens, benzoate, acetate, sorbate, sulfur dioxide. Uses of class 2 preservative is restricted. Okay, you cannot simply use this preservative in your food. They shall be added to only specified product and at a concentration not exceeding the proportion certified for the product. Okay, for this one, kalau di Malaysia, we have Peraturan Makanan 1985. So they put the preservative. Contohnya dalam roti, what kind of preservative that we can use. how many percent that we can use. I believe in Indonesia, Indonesia also have this kind of law, but the international one you can refer to Codex Alimentarius. Okay, I'll talk about this later. Okay, the other category is microbial preservative. This include antimicrobial preservative like mitrocin, for example, niacin, which is produced by some strain of lactic acid bacteria and inhibit the growth of food spoilage or pathogenic bacteria. Example, niacin produced by Lactococcus lactis, which inhibits the growth of Clostridium botulinum, the one that we talked about earlier in the canned food, Listeria monocytogenes in cheese and other dairy products in meat, fish, and etc. Using batrocin like microbial preservative help reduce the use of chemical preservative like nitrate, sorbate, and benzoate, which consumers consider bad because it's produced in the lab. It's not a natural preservative. Okay, food additive and acceptable daily intake. Chemical preservative with their ADI quantity, acceptable daily intake. Okay. E number, I'm not sure whether you're familiar or not with E number, or we call Europe number, refer to code for substance used as additive in food. The E number, the list of E number you can see here. For example, 100 to 199 for food colors, 200 to 291 preservative. This one that we talk about. 300 to 399 antioxidants. 400 499 thickener, emulsifier, and stabilizer. 500 to 599 acidity regulator and anti-caking agent. 600 to 699 flavor enhancer, for example, MSG, monosodium glutamate. 700 to 999 sweetener, forming agent, and gases. Okay, when you look at the food labeling, sometimes they use E number. Okay, the most controversy one is 471. Okay, 471 is thickener or emulsifier, because for Muslim, they're very sensitive to halal food, and some thought that 471 is haram one. Okay, but when you refer to 471, it's referred to emulsifier. Emulsifier, it means if you want to mix water in water and oil, the water and oil cannot mix, but you have to add emulsifier, usually derived from the animal or a plant fat or oil, to produce emulsifier, so that the oil and the water can mix together. Okay, basically 471, we cannot guarantee it is non-halal because it really depends on the source. If it says vegan or vegetarian, it means it's come from plant-based. But sometimes they show nothing. It's hard for us to really recognize whether it's halal or not. Okay. So for today, we're going to talk about the preservative. The E number is 200 until 299. Okay, they have specific number for each ingredients. For example, sorbic acid 200, niacin 234. After this, you go to supermarket, you look at the food labeling. If you get the E number is 200, it means they contain sorbic acid. Okay. To be honest, although I'm a food scientist, I'm not cannot ingat all those number, have still to Google. But we know that if you like 100 is the colorant, but some of the colorants also have a halal issue. That's why we have to take into consideration if they don't have a halal certificate, especially when you're not in a Muslim country. Okay. This table shows EU regulations for chemical food additive with ADI quantities. Okay, you cannot consume more than this one, more than ADI value. For example, ascorbic acid in number 225 milligram per kg. Okay, you can see the list here. Okay. Permissible limits of chemical preservative in food product. Okay, for if you are a manufacturer, you want to produce food, but you want to add additive to extend the shelf life of your product, but you don't know what the limit, what the amount, which additive should you use, you can refer to Codex General Standard for Food Additive. Okay. The Codex Alimentarius, or we call Food Code, is a collection of international standard, guidelines, and code of practice to protect the health of consumer and to ensure fair practices in the food trade. Okay, Codex standards are used worldwide to harmonize national food safety regulation. Like I said earlier, for Malaysia, we have food law. We also refer this one to Codex Alimentarius, and I believe it is the same one for Indonesia. We refer to the Codex Alimentarius. Okay, for this one, for Codex Alimentarius, if you're interested to look at in more detail, you can just Google the Codex Alimentarius standard for food additive. They have the PDF file there. Okay, you can download. You can see the detail of each additive, each product that allow to use certain amount of the additive. Okay, this is some of the list for the preservative according to Codex Alimentarius. For lactic acid, no limits. Citric acid, no limit. Acetic acid, no limits. For sodium diacetate, you have to use 15 milligram per kg. Okay, they have certain number. Okay, and also the common use level in the food. How much you can add in the food. Okay, you can refer so that you cannot help the community. The producer, the food producer should take responsibility to ensure the health, to maintain the health, to ensure the health of the health of consumer. Okay. Okay, now we look at preservation using natural ingredients. The first one, salt. Salt acts as preservative when its concentration is increased above 12%. Salt levels of about 18 to 25% solution will generally prevent all growth of microorganisms in food, because in high concentration, although they still have water inside the, for example, in the jar, dalam bekas still ada moisture, tapi the moisture is not, the water is not available for microbe to use. The water is bind to salt. It's not available for microbe to use, or not available for chemical reaction or enzymatic reaction to take place. Okay. That's why this one of the technique to preserve, the conventional technique to preserve food, put salt and leave it. Okay. Salt exerts its preservative action by plasmolysis of microbial cell due to high osmotic pressure, drawing moisture from microbes. Because the moisture is drawn from the microbe, it causes plasmolysis. Okay. And the second one, the preservative that commonly used is sugar. Sugar in high concentration act as a preservative due to osmosis. Sugar attracts all available water, and water is transferred from the microorganism into concentrated sugar. Okay, so the water is not available for the microbe to use anymore, and the microbe will die. The concentration of sugar preserved products must be 68% or more, which does not allow microorganisms to grow. Okay. Low concentration may be effective, but for short duration unless the fruit contain acid or they are refrigerated. Okay, if you want to use too much sugar, it's not good for your health, I know. And that's why if you want to use lower amount or lower concentration of sugar, you have to probably add acid, or maybe you can put in chiller to extend the shelf life of the product. Kalau di Malaysia, we call this one jeruk atau asam. We add acid, we put sugar. Okay, now we look at the preservation by synthetic chemical preservative, sulfur dioxide and sulfide. Sulfur dioxide and its derivative have been widely used in foods as food preservative. It serves both as an antioxidant and reducing agent. Sulfide are effective in producing more sulfur dioxide ion at pH value less than 4. Sulfide inhibit microbial growth by creating with the energy-rich compound like adenosine triphosphate. Okay, that's how they function. Sulfide might be added to foods such as dried fruits, fruit pulps, and juice. As you can see here, this is image of what we call this fruit. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of this fruit. Okay, when you eat sulfur dioxide, they can maintain the yellow texture. And without sulfur dioxide, it turns brown. Okay. In the past, cut fruit and vegetable in salad bar was sprayed or dipped in a solution of sulfide. Sulfide inhibit enzymatic browning, PPO, polyphenol oxidase, and keep plant tissue fresh for longer period so that the leaf will crunchier. But this practice has been banned by the FDA because over 100 reported cases of adverse reaction, including death. Okay, is really bad to health. It can cause death. That's why the FDA banned from using the sulfide in salad bar. You can use this one using permitted amount only. It also reported that 5 to 11% of asthmatics are sensitive to sulfate and experience symptoms such as headache, nausea, abnormal pain, and dizziness. That's why we have to use at permitted level. The lower the amount is better. Benzoic acid and related compound. It was the first chemical preservative permitted in food by the FDA, and it continues to be widely used in large number of food. It's commonly used in acidic food, for example, fruit juice, syrup, jams, jelly, pickles, and fruit cocktails. It acts as a mold and yeast inhibitor, so that mold and yeast cannot grow in the product. It's more effective against yeast than against mold. Sodium benzoate and sodium salt or benzoic acid is very effective. It is nearly 180 times more soluble in water than benzoic acid when dissolved in water. That's why in food drink, we usually use sodium benzoate rather than benzoic acid. It dissolves in greater extent in water. Nitrate and nitrate. Nitrate and nitrate salt are added to meat, fish, and cheese for preservation and to prevent the growth of Clostridium botulinum, the bacterium responsible for life-threatening botulinum. As we already discussed in this morning, the toxin from Clostridium botulinum can cause death. Okay. However, they are also used in meat to keep it red by forming nitrosomyoglobin, and nitrate especially are used to prevent certain cheese from bloating during fermentation. As you can see image here, the control without nitrate, and on the right side with nitrate. Okay, you can see the different in color. They become more red. Okay, because of the formation of nitrosomyoglobin. Okay, usually when we buy meat, red meat, for example, we look at the color. If it retain the red color, it means fresh. If turn to brown color, it means probably it's already not as fresh as you thought. So that's why some of the manufacturer, they add nitrate to enhance the red color. Nitrate is found naturally in vegetables, particularly in leafy vegetables like spinach and lettuce, which represent our main source of nitrate in the diet. Okay, but in this case, nitrate also available in vegetables. Okay, not the synthetic one. Okay, I finished quite early, I think. We have like 20 minutes for Q&A.
Okay, thank you Dr. Faris dan Isi. Ya, adik-adik mahasiswa, kalau ada yang ingin bertanya, silakan menghidupkan mic atau lewat chat juga boleh, silakan.
Lecture pagi tadi pun masih enggak sempat dengan Q&A. If you have a question about this morning session, you can ask as well. I try my best to answer your question.
Nabil tadi kayaknya mau bertanya, silakan.
Saya izin bertanya Pak, tapi memakai bahasa Indonesia boleh Pak?
Boleh, bisa. Enggak apa-apa.
Saya izin bertanya dokter mengenai browning di makanan. Nah, itu kalau kan makanan yang drying juga bisa kena browning ya. Nah, itu apakah bisa dicegah dokter? Terima kasih dokter.
Okay, there are a few techniques we can prevent from browning. The first one, kalau vegetable, for example, you cut, dipotong-potong, and then you biar, dia akan jadi brown. So what you can do to prevent, for example, what we call kacang panjang. You know kacang panjang?
Yeah.
So to prevent the browning, you can use blanching technique. You put in the boil water for a few minutes, and then you put in ice bath. This technique I already mentioned in our first lecture, if you still remember. Okay, you can retain the green color of the vegetable. Okay, soalan lain?
Nabil, mau konfirmasi? Ada yang ingin disampaikan lagi?
Maksudnya di makanan kering itu apakah bisa nggak browning gitu?
Makanan kering,
Yang sudah dikeringkan itu bisa dicegah browningnya atau tidak gitu? Soalnya tadi yang apel itu yang keringnya browning kan. Nah itu ada apel yang nggak browning atau enggak gitu. Terima
okay.
kasih.
We also can use certain a certain acid to reduce the browning. Okay, you can dip in acid. Apple, you can dip in acid before you dry, so that the browning, you can prevent from the browning. And the second thing, probably the way you pick the method. For example, if you want to have a high-end, high quality of dried apples, you want the white apple, not the brown apple. For example, the technique probably you can choose freeze drying, not the sun drying or oven drying. Okay, it really depends on the cost. It really depends on the product that you want. Okay.
Baik dokter, terima kasih dokter.
Sama.
Silahkan Clarissa.
Okay, Clarissa.
Sebelumnya, apakah suara saya sudah terdengar ya, dokter?
Bisa kuat sedikit.
Sekarang apakah sudah bisa lebih terdengar?
Better.
Sebelumnya saya izin bertanya mengenai materi sebelum zuhur tadi tentang susu pasteurisasi.
Okay, pasteurized milk.
Ya, bolehkah kita memanaskan susu pasteurisasi? Lalu jika boleh, bisakah kita memperpanjang masa simpan susu tersebut dengan cara memanaskan kembali? Terima kasih, dokter.
Okay. If you talk about quality, bila susu you panaskan kembali, okay, you introduce another process that involve heat. Okay, during pasteurization, some of the nutrient, for example, protein in the milk already destroyed. Okay, if you panaskan lagi susu, more protein will be destroyed or denatured during the heating process. Okay, probably you can extend the shelf life, but the nutrient content, you have to consider the nutrient content. Okay, because bila kita mau minum susu, kita mau susu yang banyak nutriennya. If you minum susu nggak ada nutrien, it's better for you to minum air biasa aja. Betul nggak?
Iya.
That's why you can extend the shelf life, but you have also to consider the nutritional content.
Ya, baik dokter, terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Ada soalan lagi?
Nabil, mau tanya lagi?
Iya Pak, saya izin bertanya
Ya.
lagi mengenai susu. Tadi itu kalau tidak salah di video ada pembahasan mengenai antibiotik. Nah, itu hubungannya susu dengan antibiotik ini apa ya dokter? Soalnya saya masih kurang paham. Terima kasih.
Okay, kalau antibiotik, kalau kita animal, for example, lembu, okay, kita nak hasilkan lebih banyak susu. Sometimes they use antibiotic during they inject antibiotic to animals to enhance the production of the susu, for example, or for their own health. Okay, antibiotics. That's why I rasa you lagi sebagai nutritionist, you lagi pakar bidang ni. It's relate on your health. Kita mau makan yang ada antibiotik atau enggak? Kalau ayam yang diinjek, susu yang lembu yang diinjek, kita tak mau. So that's why during pasteurization process, they can kill the that kind of what we call hormone whatsoever, so that it's safer for us. That's why we can extend the shelf life of the product. Okay, Nabil?
Oke, dokter. Terima kasih, dokter.
Baik, terima kasih Nabil.
Nutrition is bukan bidang saya. Kamu seharusnya lagi expert. Saya juga mau belajar dari kamu.
Baik, adik-adik yang lain mahasiswa silakan. Nah, ini ada yang di chat Dr. Farisan.
Oke.
Mengapa makanan yang dikeringkan itu ketahanan masa simpannya jauh lebih lama daripada makanan tanpa proses pengeringan? Lalu apakah proses pengeringan tersebut tidak mempengaruhi zat gizi yang terkandung dalam bahan makanan tersebut?
Okay. Bila kita dry, what happen during drying? We remove moisture. Kita keluarkan air daripada sampel makanan, daripada makanan kita. So, kenapa air penting? Kenapa air boleh menyebabkan rosak, makanan rosak? Sebab air digunakan untuk microbe, untuk growth. Berlakulah food spoilage. Ataupun air digunakan untuk chemical reaction. So bila berlaku chemical reaction akan ada off flavor, bau yang enggak enak. Atau mungkin juga berlaku enzymatic browning. So dia punya color enggak cantik lagi. So that's why during drying we remove the moisture. We remove the moisture that can be used by micro, enzyme and chemical reaction, so that we can extend the shelf life. That's why when you have the dried food, we usually measure the water activity. We want to know how much water activity available in the food system. So if it lower, it's much better for us, so that can extend the shelf life longer. Okay. In terms of gizi, nutritional contents, it really depends on the process. Drying process. If you use freeze drying, it's not involve heat. You can have nutrient content. You can preserve the nutrient content. But if say you apply a high temperature drying method, some of the nutrients or soluble vitamins, especially vitamin C and B, can degrade it. Okay. Ada soalan lagi?
Adelia, sudah cukup?
Adelia, saya menjawab enggak soalan kamu?
Halo? Baik, yang lain silahkan. Oh, oke, sudah. Terima kasih. Oh, Nabil tanya lagi, silahkan.
Silakan Nabil.
Izin bertanya dokter mengenai makanan yang dikeringkan itu, kalau dari tadi dibahas tuh saya belum melihat sayur atau kelewatan ya. Kalau sayur itu apakah boleh dikeringkan ya dokter? Terima kasih dokter.
Boleh. Kita ada dried carrots, dried you know lady finger, bendy. You know bendy? Lady finger. Atau in Britain they call okra. OKRA. Okay?
Iya, okra.
Okra. They have the dried version. You can eat like snake because during drying, rasa kelat, rasa astringent can also be removed. That's why kids prefer that kind of snack rather than fresh vegetable. It's the other option. If your kids or your adik-adik nggak suka sama sayur, you can use the dried one. It tastes better, especially the freeze-dried vegetable. You can, I'm not sure in Indonesia, I've never been to Indonesia, one day maybe, okay, but in Malaysia we have dried vegetable, but it's quite expensive.
Saya izin bertanya lagi dokter mengenai makanan kaleng.
Okay, canned food.
Ya, makanan kaleng itu kan sudah melalui proses pemasakan. Nah, itu tuh berarti makanan kaleng tuh bisa siap dikonsumsi gitu ya dokter?
Yeah, ready to eat. Kalau you imagine tomato, sardine in tomato, you open the can, you can directly eat because it's sterile, no microbe at all. But usually what we did, because we love to eat hot food, what we did usually we goreng dulu jadi sambal. Betul nggak?
Ya,
Okay, but it's safe to consume directly.
Baik dokter, terima kasih banyak dokter.
Sama-sama.
baik. Nabil pernah makan Indomie kan? Nah,
Pernah
di
Pak?
dalam Indomie itu, ya dalam Indomie itu kan kadang-kadang ada sayuran keringnya itu.
Iya,
Eh, jadi kita sebenarnya sudah sangat terbiasa makan sayuran kering.
sama ada kita aware atau enggak.
Ya, yang lain silahkan. Jadi mahasiswa.
Ada soalan lagi?
Baik, ya silahkan. Ada. Baik, saya izin bertanya pendapat Dr. Farisan. Eh, beberapa tahun yang lalu, sekitar 2005, 2004
2005.
atau 2005 ya, ada seorang teman itu melakukan penelitian gambir. Gambir itu apa ya? Unikarya. Saya tidak tahu kalau dalam bahasa Malaysia apa. Gambir, jadi gambir itu yang digunakan untuk menyirih. Yang biasa
Tahu
digunakan untuk menyirih.
macam pinang itu.
Ya,
Okay, gambir tahu?
nah itu campuran dari pinang, gambir, kemudian kapur sirih, kemudian
Ya.
digosok pakai tembakau. Nah, ada seorang teman itu melakukan penelitian. Dia mencoba memahami sifat mengawetkan yang ada di dalam gambir itu. Nah, tetapi sepertinya berhenti begitu saja, tidak ada kelanjutannya. Nah, saya ingin Dr. Farisan mencoba menyampaikan pendapatnya. Kalau di
To be
Indonesia
honest,
sepertinya pengawet-pengawet yang alamiah yang dari herbs, dari spices, dari rempah-rempah itu tidak berkembang penelitiannya. Bagaimana dengan di Malaysia?
sama Pak.
Oh ya.
Ya, di Malaysia pun sama, situasinya sama. Produk-produk alami, we know that the artificial preservatives is bad for our health. We try to prevent, but still, research, kajian berkaitan bahan-bahan alami is quite low. Okay, for example, herbs. We didn't study in detail how long it can last. For example, if you have meat, you campur dengan spices, you can extend the shelf life. But how long? Okay, that's kind of that we that did not expose in Malaysia too. And for the gambir, to be honest, I can't remember which one is gambir. I know the masa kecil-kecil, nenek makan sirih, ada gambir, ada kapur, ada pinang, ada apa tembakau, and then digobek-gobek, digobek-gobek sampai hancur. Tapi the compound dalam tu pun kita tak familiar. I never heard in Malaysia we use gambir as preservative. Gimana di Indonesia? Ada digunakan untuk dalam produk apa tu, Pak?
Dulu teman itu dia hanya melihat antioksidannya,
Oh,
aktivitas
antioksidan.
antioksidan, ya. Kemudian saya agak lupa itu dia terapkan ke apa begitu, bahan apa begitu saya lupa. Tapi kok setelah itu sudah masuk ke jurnal, tulisannya itu sudah masuk ke jurnal. Setelah itu kok apa ya berhenti begitu saja. Adik-adik mahasiswa juga adik-adiknya di kampus juga tidak meneruskan begitu. Jadi dan itu saya lihat di Indonesia memang tidak berkembang gitu. Nah, sebenarnya kalau seandainya di Malaysia berkembang, barangkali kan nanti bisa banyak belajar dari Malaysia terkait dengan ini, terkait dengan apa penggunaan bahan-bahan alami untuk pengawet atau preservatif.
Maybe we can study that one. This is the first time I dengar gambir can use as preservative. Okay, kena tengok dia punya chemical compound. Apa yang aktif, apa yang boleh menyumbang kepada preservation action. Maybe future research kita boleh buat joint research.
Jadi mahasiswa ada yang tertarik? Itu gambir itu bisa diteliti lagi. Dulu sempat terpikir penggunaan jahe sebagai pengawet.
Jahe itu apa ya? Macam pernah dengar jahe.
Ginger.
Oh, ginger. Okay. Di Malaysia we call halia. Halia.
Ya.
Okay.
Baik, silakan
That
adik-adik
one
mahasiswa.
That one is high in antioxidant.
Ya. Ya, adik-adik mahasiswa.
Okay, we have
Ini
soalan
ada.
here from Nurbaiti. Izin bertanya, apakah suhu rendah mempengaruhi konsentrasi gula pada makanan khususnya buah-buahan? Kerana selama ini saya merasa makanan yang telah dimasukkan ke dalam kulkas selama beberapa waktu terasa lebih manis. Okay, for this one, Nurbaiti, it really depends how you store the product. Let's say you have fruits, tapi you enggak cover ataupun you tak pakai container, you just biarkan. So what happen? The surface of the product, the moisture at the surface probably evaporates or transfer to the surrounding. So that's why it become sweeter. And the second reason probably due to when you put the fruits in the fridge, the ripening process is still occur. Okay, that's why it gives you sweeter taste. Okay.
Baik, terima kasih, Miss.
Sama-sama. Okay, untuk Aisyah Nur Khalifah, izin bertanya, kebanyakan susu saat ini dicampur dengan air. Apakah hal tersebut dapat mempengaruhi ketahanannya? Dan lebih baik susu tanpa air atau dengan air? Okay, usually in industry, we use milk as it is. Except for the one that you saw in the video, we want to produce low-fat skim milk powder or semi-skim powder. Skim milk, sorry, not powder, skim milk. So you want to remove certain amount of fat, but I'm not sure about adding water in the process. As far as I'm concerned, in the processing of milk, we usually don't add water. Okay.
Aisyah. Halo, Aisyah Nur Khalifah. Ada yang ingin disampaikan lagi? Oh ya, terima kasih.
Okay, this one from Aulia Arina. Izin bertanya, Miss, di Jepang sekarang kan semakin banyak satu masakan yang dibekukan seperti ramen yang dibekukan, omelet yang dibekukan, jika ingin dimakan tinggal dipanaskan. Saya ingin bertanya apakah cara itu tidak masalah dimakan sehari-hari dan apa tidak mempengaruhi zat gizi pada makanan tersebut. Okay, this one kita panggil ready to eat food. Okay, kita process food, kita cook food and then kita frozenkan. Okay, bila kita mau makan, kita keluarkan daripada freezer and then kita masuk dalam microwave, we heat and we can eat directly. Okay, if you talk about gizi, during masak, you already apply the heat. During heating, you apply heat again. I believe some of the nutrients might destroy during heating process. Okay. But most of the, I know, lifestyle sekarang want to have like easy to eat food. Just take out from the oven, from the fridge, and you immediately put in the microwave. You can eat directly, but you also have to consider in terms of the nutritional content. It might degrade during second heating. Okay.
Kuliah, bagaimana?
Whatever it is, processed food is not as good as the fresh one. The alami is the best. Betul nggak, Pak?
Ya, betul sekali. Hanya saja memang begini adik-adik. Banyak makanan yang dimakan secara dalam keadaan segar itu kurang nikmat. Kadang teksturnya kurang nikmat sehingga kemudian kita mengolah. Nah, mengolah itu memang mempengaruhi kandungan gizinya. Dari yang paling sederhana ya, mulai dari saya pernah cerita di kelas kan, mengupas buah itu sudah mengubah.
Proses.
Ya, sudah sebuah proses yang paling sederhana dan itu mengubah sifat. Baik, yang lain silahkan. Sudah
Ya,
cukup?
Nabil.
Oh, Nabil lagi, silahkan.
Silakan, Nabil.
Saya izin bertanya dokter mengenai susu lagi. Kan tadi
Iya.
susu dibagi 3, ada susu skim, ada susu krim, dan susu semi skim.
Skim. Ya.
Itu tuh apakah semuanya bisa dijadikan bubuk ya dokter? Karena saya pernah mendengar
Bubuk tu apa? Powder ya? Bubuk tu
ya
powder.
powder.
Okay.
Pernah mendengar susu skim bubuk dan hanya itu saja yang terdengar gitu dokter. Apakah ada susu krim bubuk dan sebagainya? Terima
Okay.
kasih dokter.
Kalau susu, kita nak proses, kita nak dry susu, usually kita pakai spray dryer. Okay. Because we expose heat at very short time, millisecond. Okay. Untuk kita produce powder guna spray dryer, it doesn't matter if you want to use full cream, skim milk, semi-skim milk, as long as it liquid. Okay, so that is just the process to convert from liquid into powder. Okay, it doesn't matter the the full cream is only related to the amount of fat in the milk. If you don't want the full cream, you want to have skim milk, you have to remove the certain amount of fat from the milk. So after that, you process, you can dry using spray dryer. Okay. Contoh susu untuk baby. That one is full cream. It's not skim milk. Okay. Lepas ni boleh tengok labeling. Okay. When I studied food science during my degree. Once I studied, you know what? I take longer time to look at the food labeling. I read every single thing because we can understand more by reading the labeling. So after this, maybe you can explore reading the food labeling. What in number that they use in the certain food. Okay. Get familiar with that one.
Baik, dokter. Terima kasih banyak, dokter.
Sama.
Terima kasih. Ya, masih ada lagi kah yang ingin bertanya? Perbaiki, hanya mengacungkan jempol atau akan bertanya? Sudah ya? Masih ada? Sudah tidak ada? Baik, sepertinya sudah ada tulisan isi. Mudah-mudahan. Jadi siang hari ini kita sudah belajar beberapa hal ya. Ada termasuk yang terakhir tadi, anjuran untuk memperhatikan label. Kita sudah belajar tentang pengeringan pengawetan. Mudah-mudahan nanti adik-adik mahasiswa ketika melihat setelah ini, ketika melihat produk makanan tertentu, coba diperhatikan lagi. Ini mengolahnya, memprosesnya bagaimana? Adakah pengawetnya? Adakah teknik yang digunakan selain yang sudah disampaikan oleh Dr. Farizan Isi tadi? Nah, coba diperhatikan, diingat-ingat, kemudian nanti setelah itu dieksplor lebih dalam lagi. Kita di kelas sempat belajar sedikit tentang gas kan ya, mengawetkan dengan gas. Nah, seperti itu. Hari ini kita mendapatkan tambahan pengetahuan. Jadi insya Allah semoga yang disampaikan oleh Dr. Tengku Farizan Isi berguna bagi mahasiswa, menjadi amal jariah bagi Dr. Farizan Isi. Semoga
Amin.
mendapatkan balasan dari Allah SWT, balasan sebaik-baiknya. Dan juga adik-adik mahasiswa setelah ini sudah dapat ilmunya, ya diterapkan, dipakai. Seperti itu. Sudah punya ilmunya, dipakai, disebarluaskan, insya Allah akan membawa kebaikan bagi kita semua. Sebelum kita closing, Dr. Farizan Isi ada yang ingin disampaikan?
Saya mengambil kesempatan ini untuk mengucapkan terima kasih kerana sudi menjemput saya. This is my first experience share with the international audience. I have good experience. Thank you so much. Thank you for being active in the class. I really admire your effort. Hopefully one day I can go to your university and we can meet face to face. Okay, because dekat fakulti saya juga, kami sekarang ni cuba ada usaha sama dengan universiti di Indonesia. UPI, we try to connect with UPI, and some of the Universitas Muhammadiyah already visited us. Early this year, we have lecturers from Universitas Muhammadiyah Gresik already visit us, and University Muhammadiyah Jogja, UMY, they bring few students visit us. Okay, maybe in future we can have a collaboration research as well. Okay, saya juga ingin mengucapkan terima kasih di atas segala perhatian anak-anak mahasiswa. Saya halalkan segala ilmu yang saya berikan dalam 3 lecture ini. Kalau ada soalan boleh direct email kepada saya. I try to entertain you. And saya juga minta dihalalkan apa yang kurang, apa yang terlebih, apa yang terlanjur. Saya hanya mau share ilmu yang saya ada. If I'm wrong, I'm really sorry. Saya minta maaf banyak-banyak. Okay, saya doakan anak-anak mahasiswa terus maju, terus berjaya dan menjadi pemimpin yang berkaliber, berwibawa in future. Terima kasih Pak.
Terima kasih Dr. Tengku Farizan Isi. Saya juga menyampaikan terima kasih atas ilmu yang sudah disampaikan, kesempatannya sudah diberikan. Mohon maaf ketika mungkin kami ketika melaksanakan kegiatan ini ada kekurangan. Semoga nanti kita bisa bertemu lagi.
Amin.
Kalau Dr. Farizan Isi ke Jawa Tengah atau ke Jogja mungkin, ke Yogyakarta, mungkin bisa
InsyaAllah one
menghubungi
day.
kami. Atau mungkin suatu ketika saya dan adik-adik mahasiswa yang bisa ke sana,
Ya,
mudah-mudahan nanti kita bisa bertemu dalam suasana yang sehat semua, sehingga kita
amin.
bisa kembali apa ya berdiskusi, bertukar ilmu. Nah, baik, mari kita tutup kegiatan dari pagi sampai sore hari ini dengan membaca hamdalah bersama-sama. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Semoga Allah senantiasa memberikan kesehatan, kebahagiaan, kesejahteraan, dan kemudahan bagi kita semua. Saya selaku moderator atau yang membawakan acara, mohon maaf kalau ada kekurangannya. Terima kasih sekali lagi. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Dokter.
wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih,
Terima
Bapak.
kasih, Pak. Terima kasih, Bu.
Pak.
Ya.
Terima kasih,
Terima kasih
dokter.
semuanya.
Terima
Terima
kasih,
kasih.
Dokter. Terima kasih, Pak.
Dokter.
Ya, tutup ya Zoom-nya ya.
Oke, terima kasih.